Imagine this. Someone higher up in the company says they want to meet with you, the instructional designer on the team, and they tell you employee performance has been low lately, and they know that you always make great e-learning courses. So, can you make a course to help improve employee performance? It'd be great if we can get this done by next quarter. What do? Do you build the course, or do you ask questions? Stick around, and I'll let you know what I do. Hello, I'm Sabrina. As an instructional designer, you are not an order taker. Your root responsibility is to solve problems and think critically. You identify learning gaps and performance issues, and then you design and develop solutions to close those learning gaps and to address those performance issues. You're a change maker. With that being said, you probably have a good idea of what I would do in the scenario I introduced earlier. I'd ask questions because I want to get down to the root of the problem. I want to make sure that the learning experience I'm creating is effective, and I bet you do too. But what questions would I ask, and when would I ask them? Well, that totally depends on the problem. Some of the most common ID problems we see are the misdiagnosis of the performance problem, scope creep, troubleshooting technical issues, and insufficient evaluation metrics. If some of those terms aren't familiar to you, no worries, we're going to dig into it and see what questions I'd ask to problem solve through these issues. Let's get into it. To kick off any project, you want to make sure you truly know what the performance problem is, even if the person requesting the training already told you. We don't want to misdiagnose the performance problem. We want to make sure we truly know what is going on. So to help with that, we can start by asking questions like, what data do we have that illustrates this problem? Knowing this and looking at the data is going to help us make sure that we are making informed decisions that are backed by concrete evidence and that we're not just going off of what we think the problem might be. You can also ask, what are the performance gaps between the current and desired states? Understanding these gaps in performance is going to help us figure out if if the problem comes from a lack of skill, knowledge, motivation, or even external factors like resources and support. Being able to identify the correct performance problem is going to set us up for success throughout the rest of this project because we'll be able to confidently build a learning solution that we know is going to address the performance problem and help us reach our business goal. Now, when we move into the design stage, different problems can arise. So maybe you are in the design stage and you send your course outline to the stakeholders, they approve it, you start working on your storyboard, send it over for feedback, and they love it. And they also say, it'd be great if we could add this content here, this activity, let's do this activity. I saw this content in another course and I think it fit great into this one. Well, we don't want to add everything in, and the problem that we start to deal with here is scope creep. So to keep your course from going off tracks, you can ask a question like, what are the specific learning objectives for this training? You may have already identified them at this point, but a reminder of those learning objectives are going to make sure that everything we put into this course is aligned with the learning objectives and it's going to help us reach the business goal that we set. We don't want to just throw everything in because it's nice to know or it looks like a fun activity. We want to make sure that everything we add is there to help the learners reach those performance goals and help us reach our business goal. Another crucial question to ask is, what are the constraints of this project? Defining constraints like budget, time, and resources ensures that we are doing everything we can to effectively plan and execute this project. Communicating those priorities and constraints to stakeholders is going to help manage their expectations as well. The next two problems we're going to talk about, you can be proactive about. So in order to be a good problem solver, that doesn't mean you have to wait for a problem to come to you. You can be proactive and think ahead. So one problem that might come up in the development stage are technical issues, and you need to be able to troubleshoot them. So that may mean your authoring tool doesn't quite work the way you want it to, but it could also be something bigger. So like when we are ready to put the course on the LMS, we want to be proactive. And so early on, we should ask, what are the technical requirements for this project? This can help open up that conversation for the LMS so that we know what the requirements are. How do we need to build it so that it's compatible, so that we can ensure that the content is properly delivered and tracked efficiently. Another technical issue that we can be proactive about or what we can ask so that we don't have technical issues later is, can we test a prototype or early version of this training? By testing prototypes early and often, we can create effective and engaging learning experiences that we know we will be able to implement effectively. Prototyping is super important. You may have seen Kristen's video a couple weeks ago on prototyping in PowerPoint, or maybe you saw my video on how to prototype in Figma, or you may already know how to prototype in your authoring tool. No matter what tool you use, it is a great idea to prototype early and often, because one, it's going to show stakeholders what the plan is, what they can expect. Two, it's going to help you find any issues early on, because that prototype is probably going to have a lot of the slides that you're just going to duplicate for the full course. And so if you catch those issues early, you don't have to worry about duplicating them throughout the entire course, and now you need to go through and fix them on every single slide. So prototype early, test early and often, make sure you're getting that feedback, and that's going to help you be proactive in these situations. Now, the next issue that we are going to want to be very proactive about is when it comes to evaluation. So if you're familiar with ADDIE, evaluation comes at the end, right? Well, ADDIE doesn't have to be so linear. It was built that way, right? But you can still kind of do things and kind of flow in and out of that model. Evaluation should really be something you're thinking about early on. That's why I'm saying it's a problem we want to be proactive about. We don't want to wait until a problem comes up with evaluation. So we want to make sure that the metrics that we find or that we're deciding upon early are really going to help us figure out effectiveness. So to avoid insufficient evaluation metrics, we can ask questions like, what metrics will we use to evaluate the effectiveness of this training? Establishing these specific metrics early ensures that there's a clear understanding of what success is going to look like for this learning solution. Clear success criteria allow stakeholders to have like a shared understanding of the learning goals and how they're going to be measured, making sure that everything is aligned and focused. So if we also help set up these metrics early on, along with our learning goal, we know that everything's built to meet the business goal. And that's also going to help us combat the scope creep, because we can say, like, remember, these are the metrics we're measuring. This is the path we're on. This is what's going to help us with the performance problem. Let's stick to this. Another thing you can do is ask, what data do we need to collect to evaluate the effectiveness of this training? So once you know the metrics, the things you're going to measure, you want to think about what data are you going to collect? Because not only is collecting data or even knowing what data to collect, not only is it going to help with understanding how effective your course is, but it's going to help you decide what changes need to be made for future implementations of this course. So you'll be able to see, oh, you know what, this module didn't do too great. It looks like people are missing this content. Let's go ahead and adjust or add or subtract, whatever the case may be. But knowing that data early on is going to help you build a course so that it's set up for you to collect that data. Now, although these are the most common problems that I've seen or heard people talk about in instructional design, that doesn't mean all 4 of these problems are going to show up in every single project you do. But it is likely throughout your time as an instructional designer, you may face one of these problems. But don't let that scare you. You're a problem solver. Embrace these challenges and work on those problem solving and critical thinking skills, because those skills are going to help you no matter the content, material, or business problem you come across. Now, these were just 4 of the most common ID problems that I see. The misdiagnosing of the performance problem, scope creep, troubleshooting technology issues, and the evaluation metrics. But there's probably others out there. If you've faced other ID challenges, let us know down in the comments what that problem was and how did you problem solve through it. And if you found this video to be helpful, be sure to subscribe for other instructional design content, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.